Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the start of another reading vlog. This reading vlog was inspired by that challenge that was going around on YouTube a little while ago where people vlog themselves reading and the vlog doesn't end until they find a 5-star read. And knowing my luck, if I did that challenge, I feel like it would have gone one of two ways. Either one, the very first book I picked up would have been a 5-star and the vlog would have been like over and done with super quick, and I feel like no one would want to watch a video where I'm just vlogging myself reading one book. Or it would have gone in the opposite direction where I'm reading like 20 books, still haven't found a 5-star read, and it just would have dragged out forever and been so long and taken forever to edit. So I've kind of found a happy medium and created my own abbreviated version of that challenge. I picked out 5 books that I think that I'm going to rate 5 stars. And say that I read the first book and it ends up being a 5-star, the vlog isn't going to end there. I'm still going to read the other 4 books. Say I read all 5 books and God forbid none of them are 5 stars, the vlog's still going to end there. So we're reading 5 books no matter what I end up rating them. I'm going to vlog all my thoughts along the way. So I'm going to kick off the vlog by telling you guys the 5 books I've selected. I'll tell you a little synopsis and then I'll tell you why I think I'm going to rate it 5 stars. The first book I've picked out for this vlog is The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This one is following these 2 people that share the same flat, and the flat only has 1 bed. But they're there at opposite times because I think the guy is like a night shift nurse. So he has the flat and the bed during the day, and then Tiffy works regular hours, so she has it at night. And they never see one another, so it's kind of like this strange arrangement where they live in the same flat, share the same bed, but they never cross paths, and they communicate through post-it notes. They leave little notes around the flat to one another. And it just sounds really cute. I feel like it's going to be a really great rom-com. And if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year if I thought this was going to be a 5-star read, I probably would have said no. I think I'm going to really enjoy it, but maybe more at like a 4-star level. That is until I read The No-Show by Beth O'Leary and absolutely fell in love with it. That book was almost a 5-star. It's just the first half was kind of slow and hard to get into, but the ending of that book absolutely made up for it, and I still think about that book all the time. I just really loved it. It's one of my favorite books I've read this year. So my thought process is, since The Flatshare is Beth O'Leary's more popular book, that I'm going to rate this book even higher and enjoy it even more than The No-Show, which would mean rating this book 5 stars. The next book I'll be reading is on KU, so I'll be reading it on my Kindle. That is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This is the second book in her Windy City series. This one follows the brother of the main character from book 1. It's Stevie's twin brother, Ryan Shea. He is an NBA star, so it's a basketball romance. And then the female love interest in this is actually Stevie, again from book 1's best friend, who is also a flight attendant, and it follows their romance. I believe it's fake dating and best friend's brother are the tropes. So the reason I think I'm going to give this book 5 stars, I just read Mile High last month and absolutely loved it. That was another book that was almost 5 stars, but I just thought the first half was so much better than the second half, so it wasn't quite at a 5-star for me, but I still really loved it. But from what I've heard, The Right Move, book 2 in the series, is the fan favorite. I've seen so many people give this book 5 stars, so I'm thinking since I loved Mile High so much that I'm going to love The Right Move even more and give it 5 stars. The next book I'll be reading is Last Time We Met by Emily Houghton. I think that's how you say her last name. But this one, I actually know the least about the plot. I just know that this book has all of my favorite tropes. It has childhood friends to lovers, then and now timelines, dual perspectives, which are like the recipe for a perfect book for me. The thing that really drew me to this book, which I've mentioned every time I've talked about it before on my channel, but the 2 main characters in this book are named Eleanor and Finn. And if I have a son, I will probably name him Finn, and if I have a daughter one day, I will probably name her Eleanor. So the fact that it's like my 2 favorite names, this book is just speaking to me. I discovered it from Rachel Catherine on BookTube, who I have very similar reading taste to. She gave this book 5 stars. I know Haley Pham gave this book 5 stars as well. So I just have a really good feeling about this one, and it's one of my most anticipated books of the year. I put it on my 23 books I want to read in 2023. So definitely predicting this to be a 5-star read and a new favorite. The next book I'll be reading is also on KU. That is Kulti by Mariana Zapata. I've never read anything from Mariana Zapata before, so I've heard that Kulti is a really great place to start. I know it's a soccer romance between a girl named Saul, she's a soccer player, and her coach ends up being this really famous retired soccer player named Kulti. So it's like an age gap player and coach romance. The main thing I've heard about MZ is that she's the queen of slow burn, and I love a good slow burn, and I've just been so into sports romances lately. I feel like this is another one that just has like all the perfect ingredients for me to give this 5 stars, and pretty much every other person I've seen read this book gives it 5 stars as well. So I just have really high hopes, and I'm really excited to check out Mariana Zapata. The last book I'll be reading for this vlog is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one follows a woman who ends up marrying her high school sweetheart, and then one day he goes down in a helicopter crash and is presumed dead. So she grieves the loss of her husband, the love of her life, but she ends up being able to move forward, and she reconnects with this guy who she knew in high school, and they end up forming a more romantic relationship, and they get engaged. But while she is engaged to this new guy, she gets a call from her husband, who she thought was dead, and he's like, hey, I'm actually not dead. I've been stranded for years trying to come home to you, and I've finally been rescued, and I'm on my way back to you. So it becomes this impossible decision of like, which guy does she choose? Does she go back to her husband, or does she stay with this new guy? And the reason I think I'm going to give this book 5 stars is a few reasons. For one, I saw this on so many people's favorite books of the year last year. Also, Taylor Jenkins Reid is just a wonderful author. I love all her books, but I feel like most of them feel super fictional to me, and I just don't personally connect with them. But I've never read anything from her backlist before she started doing the like celebrity fictional character type thing. So I'm thinking that since this is based on more still fictional people, but like they're not celebrities or famous people, I'll maybe connect more. And I just feel like I'm really gonna put myself in the main character's shoes, trying to make this decision along with her. So I am predicting that I will give this book 5 stars as well. So that is the gist. Those are the 5 books I'm going to be reading. Let's go ahead and jump right into the vlog. I'm kicking this vlog off with The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. I've been reading so much on my Kindle lately that I knew I wanted to start out with one of the paperback books, and I've also been reading a lot of heavier, darker things, so I think The Flatshare is probably the most lighthearted of all the books I've selected. I've started this book earlier today and I made it to page 57, so that's probably a good point to give you guys a first impressions update. The first thing that surprised me when picking up this book is that it's told in first person. I was just expecting this to be told in third person because the no-show was third person, so I was pleasantly surprised to find that it is first person, dual POV. It flips chapters between our female main character Tiffy and then our male main character Leon. I think Leon's chapters are very interesting because almost every single sentence is like not a full complete thought. It's very fragmented, and all the dialogue is told in like interview style. It'll be the person's name and then a colon and then whatever it is they're saying, instead of having quotation marks around it. I'm not sure why that was done, or if we'll even be told why it was done. I don't know if it's to differentiate Leon's character from Tiffy or if it was just a stylistic choice, but it is really interesting to read. I feel like it makes Leon's chapters go by really quickly. There's been some moments when I'm reading this where it feels very much like an Emily Henry book, and it's kind of like British Emily Henry. It's very rom-com-y, but also it feels literary fiction at some points. This book has layers and depth to it, which I'm really enjoying. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how Tiffy and Leon get together, because right now Tiffy is kind of hung up on her ex. She's going through a breakup, and Leon actually has a girlfriend, and things seem to be going well. I don't anticipate a breakup in the near future, so I don't think this book has the cheating trope. I'm really hoping that's not gonna be a factor in this book, but it'll be interesting to see how they get together and how they even meet, because they haven't met yet in person. So I'm anxious for that. I'm really enjoying it so far. I finished the Flatshare by Beth O'Leary a couple days ago. This was one that I definitely just needed to sit with for a little bit before I decided on a rating, but I have decided on 4.5 stars for this book. I keep going back and forth in my head and comparing it to The No-Show because I know I gave The No-Show a slightly higher rating of 4.75 stars. And it's not necessarily that I like that book better than the Flatshare. I think the thing for me is that the plot twist in The No-Show was so good. I was so impressed with it. And this book, it was more like just consistently good the whole way through, that nothing really like jumped out at me to make me bump up my rating. But really my only critique of this book is that it was just a little bit slow in a couple places. Other than that, I loved it so much, and I'm not at all disappointed that this didn't end up being a 5-star read because I still would highly recommend it. I still really enjoyed it and had such a fun time reading it. I want to read everything from Beth O'Leary now because I love her writing. I feel like she writes the most endearing, charming characters and just such sweet romances. I was rooting so hard for Leon and Tiffy to end up together, and Leon is severely underrated. Like, he was a dream. I was down bad for Leon, and I cannot wait to watch the series adaptation of this book now. If I end up watching it before this vlog comes out, I will definitely let you guys know my thoughts on the show. Hi guys, I have picked up and started reading The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford as the second book of this vlog. I've made it a good ways into the book. I'm at like the 40-something% mark, not quite halfway, so I wanted to cut myself off and film an update for you guys before hitting the 50% mark. There's been a few points already where I've had thoughts that I wanted to share, but I felt like I needed to give the book a little more time before I filmed an update for you guys. So to give you guys kind of a synopsis, like I mentioned before, The Right Move is the second book in the Windy City series. I read book 1, Mile High, a few weeks ago and absolutely loved it, so I was so excited to continue on into book 2. And in this book, we're following Ryan and Indy. Both of these characters are connected to Stevie from Mile High. Ryan is Stevie's twin brother. He's also a star in the NBA. And then Indy is one of Stevie's best friends who she met through work. So Indy's also a flight attendant for the same hockey team that Stevie was. So Indy's longtime boyfriend that she's known for pretty much her whole life. She thought she was gonna marry this man, have children with him. He was like her forever. He cheated on her, and now Indy is like devastated and has no one to live with, nowhere to go. So Stevie is a really good friend and decides to help Indy out and offer for her to live with her brother Ryan. But Ryan is not into this idea at all because he's very introverted, very much a recluse, but he finally gives in because he loves Stevie and wants to help her out. So we kind of have this like forced proximity trope going on right now. And there's also a fake dating trope going on because Ryan is the captain of his basketball team. The general manager of the basketball team is not really a fan of Ryan being captain because he feels like he hasn't demonstrated enough leadership skills to earn this role. And he brings up the example of how Ryan's such a lone wolf and the only person in his life that he really cares about is his twin sister Stevie. And Ryan's like, that's not true. I actually have a girlfriend named Indy. So it becomes this like fake dating kind of trope. And at the 10% mark, I almost stopped to film an update because it literally only took like 2 chapters of Mile High before I was absolutely loving it. And I was kind of let down when by the 10% mark of The Right Move, I wasn't feeling those same feelings of just like loving it instantly. But I was like, you know, it's only 10% in, let me give it some more time. So by like the 17% mark, I still wasn't feeling the same and loving it as much as I did love Mile High. And by like the 20-something% mark, I still wasn't feeling the same. So I just kept reading and reading until I was hoping to like love it. And now that I'm almost at the halfway point, I'm like, I just need to film an update because to be honest, I'm not loving it as much as I loved Mile High. Don't get me wrong, I still think it's a good book and I'm still enjoying it, but I'm just not as obsessed with it as I thought I would be, especially after hearing everyone say that they love The Right Move so much more than Mile High. I was like, this is for sure gonna be 5 stars. But right now it's feeling like a very solid 4-star book. I feel like the fake dating trope is my main issue with it because Usually I like fake dating. I feel like it brings about a whole lot of tension, and it's like they secretly have feelings, but they're like faking it. And in this book, it's like, it's such a blurred line between when they're pretending and when they're not, and I just never really know where the characters actually stand, because when we're in the characters' heads, they're like telling us that they feel a certain way about the other person, but then I feel like their actions don't reflect that, and then they'll like do things behind closed doors and say they're faking it, and then do things in public and say they're faking it, and it's like I never really have a good sense of like what's pretend and what's not. And that's really my main issue with the book. I feel like I'm also not buying into the chemistry between Ryan and Indy as much as I was with Stevie and Xander's in Mile High, but I'm still liking it. It's reminding me of how I felt about Icebreaker, where there was like so much hype and I was like, this is gonna be an easy 5 stars. And now I'm like a little let down because of the hype, but I'm still enjoying it. I just don't think it's gonna be a 5-star read, unfortunately, but I'm not even halfway yet, so I definitely just need to give it more time. I feel like hopefully it'll get better. Maybe it'll be like the opposite of how Mile High was, because the first half of Mile High for me felt like a 5-star, and the second half felt like a 4-star, so I rounded it up to 4.5 stars for that book. And with this book, it feels like the first half is 4 stars, so maybe the second half will be 5 stars for me. I'm just gonna keep reading, and I will definitely update you guys and let you know my thoughts. I feel like when authors make a character really into books and really into reading, it's such a fine line between it being relatable and it being cringy. And in this book, our main girl, Indy, is really into romance books, which is fine. But she keeps bringing up her book boyfriends and things that they're doing, and she'll reference like what her book is about, and I can tell what book it is in real life. Like it's an actual book based on what her synopsis is, and it keeps taking me out of the story. I guess because it's just like too self-aware for me, and I just don't want to read about that. Like I don't want to think about the fact that the book I'm reading is a book.
You know, my favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie,
but feeling like it's fictional enough to like be swept into the story. I don't know. Hi guys, I finished The Right Move and I wanted to share my final thoughts on it. Looking back, I feel like all my updates on this book were so negative and made it seem like I didn't like the book, which wasn't the case at all. I was just being super nitpicky because of how much I loved Mile High, and I just thought this one was going to be so much better. But I ended up not liking it quite as much as Mile High. I think I'm going to settle on a 4-star rating for this book. My biggest issue with it was the fake dating trope. I just feel like it made everything kind of fuzzy. Like I never really knew where the characters stood with one another. I never really knew how they were feeling. I feel like they didn't really know how they were feeling, because they would act like one way behind closed doors, another in public, then another way behind closed doors, and then a different way in public. And it was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of like uncertainties about their feelings for one another, which like is understandable, I guess, in a romance. But the fake dating trope in this one just didn't 100% work for me. But that was really my only issue. Other than that, I think this series is so great. I cannot wait for book 3. But yeah, it's gonna be a 4-star. It was still really good. It's just sadly not quite a 5-star. Hi guys, it's literally been 2 weeks of me trying to get through the 3rd book I'm reading for this video, which is Last Time We Met, and I'm just not enjoying my time. Every time I see the book on my nightstand and I'm like, I need to keep reading, I need to keep reading, I need to finish this vlog, I just have no desire to do so, and it is putting me in such a slump, and it's making this video drag out forever. Like this video is literally about to take over a month to film, and I feel so bad because it's the reason I haven't really put out a lot of content lately, because this book is just putting me in the biggest slump. And it's extra sad because obviously like this was a 5-star prediction, and right now it's very much giving 2-star, and I have nothing bad to say about it aside the fact that it's boring. Like the plot is just so dry, so slow. It's giving me nothing. The characters are so boring and so bland. And if I wasn't reading this for this video, I would probably DNF. But I also have this thing where I'm like, what if the book gets better right after you DNF'd and it becomes your new favorite book, which I know is not likely to happen, but like that's just the way my brain works and why it's so hard for me to DNF a book. But I'm gonna persevere for the sake of the video. Hopefully this book will get better. I will definitely update you guys and let you know how it ends up going. But yeah, sadly this is boring me so much right now. Guys, I've been continuing on with Last Time We Met, and there's this one scene that just single-handedly turned this book around for me. It raised it from a 2 to a 3 star, and now I'm so much more invested in the story and the characters and their relationship, and I'm reading it so much more quickly now because I'm actually excited to see it through to the end. And I'm like, see, this is why I don't DNF books, because you never know, it could get better just a few pages down the line, and that's exactly what happened with this book. It's still disappointing because it's definitely not going to be a 5-star with how boring the first half of this book was, but it's gotten better at least. So I'll probably report back next once I have finished the book. I finally finished Last Time We Met, and I realized that since I went into this book pretty blind, I never gave a synopsis. So basically this book starts out on New Year's Eve, and you see that Finn breaks up with his girlfriend. He's living in the US, and he breaks up with her, ends up going back home to England to take care of his mother who is sick. And then Eleanor gets broken up with by her boyfriend, and she is also dealing with some familial issues as well. Grief is definitely a running theme throughout this book, and it could get a little heavy at times. Nothing too dark or deep, but check trigger warnings just in case. You see in the past that Eleanor and Finn were really good friends. They grew up together. They made this little pact that if they weren't married by 35, they would marry each other. You see some moments where they maybe have more feelings than friendship for one another, but it was just kind of always wrong timing, or they didn't want to ruin their friendship. And then in the present, you see them reconnecting at a mutual friend's wedding. And I think I'm gonna give this book 3 stars. That could maybe drop to like a 2.5 at some point. This book was so slow to start. It was literally putting me in a slump, and I don't think this book needed to be as long as it was. It's like over 400 pages, literally 405 pages, and it did not need to be that long because the first like 200 pages really wasn't giving anything for me. It really didn't add to the character development or move the story along. This is such a slow-paced book, but I do think the last half was a lot better, and it definitely picked up. There was like that one scene that I vlogged that I think really turned the story around, and I liked the ending and I liked the epilogue. I thought it was well done. But this isn't really something I would recommend to people. For me, it was just kind of right there in the middle. Hi guys, I've started the 4th book that I'm going to be reading for this video. Not that you can see that at all, but it is Kulti by Mariana Zapata. It is on KU, so I'm reading it on my Kindle. But I just had to update you guys because I don't know if anyone else does this. It's kind of hard to explain. But whenever there's an author that I haven't read from yet, especially if it's like a popular author with a large backlist, I always have a picture in my head of what I think their writing style might be like. And most of the time I'm a little bit off, but with Mariana Zapata, her writing is exactly how I expected it to be. Not saying that's like good or bad, but it's just crazy that it's exactly how I pictured. So this book is living up to my expectations so far. I feel like this book definitely has a good chance to be a 5-star read because I've been so into sports romances lately with all the hockey I've been loving. So I'm loving that it's a sports romance. I'm already relating to our main character 3 chapters in, so all good things so far. Hi guys, I'm like 75% of the way through Kulti right now, and I wanted to film an update because I don't really know how I'm feeling about this book. I have very mixed opinions, and I'm like, am I liking this? Am I not? I don't really know. So I just wanted to share like what I'm feeling about this book. I feel like it's really well written. The story is really well crafted. The characters are very well developed and fleshed out, and they have a lot of depth and layers to them, and I feel like they are real people. This book is definitely character driven. The plot is like really slow moving, and there's not really a lot to it. It is very like soccer heavy, and that's fine because I'm a character driven person, but I don't know if I'm personally connecting to these characters or the story. I feel like the one thing I've always heard about Mariana Zapata is that she's the queen of slow burn. That's what everyone says. She's the queen of slow burn, and I love a good slow burn romance. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this. And I associate a slow burn romance with like the tension building up and you just want them to get together so badly. And I don't really feel that in this book. I like their dynamic and I feel like they have a good connection, but I feel like it's just platonic. Like I feel like they're really good friends. And unless something really drastic is gonna shift in the last 25%, which I know she's known for like making them get together at like the last 5%, which is fine, but I just don't really see it moving in a romantic direction. I've never heard anyone say that before about an MZ book, so I feel like it's just me, possibly, but that's how I'm feeling right now. I feel like it's a good book, but I'm not personally like feeling the characters or the relationship. So I'm kind of in the middle right now on this one. Hi guys, same sweatshirt, but it is the next day. I finished Kulti last night, and my feelings didn't change too much. I thought the ending was cute, but I feel like when they were together, I was just like, I see you guys more as friends, and I feel like your connection is very much platonic and doesn't feel really romantic to me. But I think that's just like a personal thing because I've never heard anyone say a bad word about this book, and it wasn't bad at all. I just think it was like that personal preference on the relationship. Also, plot-wise, I feel like it was very, very soccer heavy, which is fine, but like I'm just not really into soccer, so I wasn't that into the story or that into like the characters. But I think I've landed on a 3.5 star for this book. 3 feels way too low, and 4, I just wasn't quite at that level of enjoyment. So 3.5 feels just right for this book. I'm definitely curious to try more Mariana Zapata and see if I like her other books better. I also found myself comparing this one to Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. It's that same kind of thing where our female main character ends up with her like #1 celebrity crush, even though I guess Kulti is like an athlete. I don't know if that would be considered celebrity still, but it felt like the same kind of thing, which feels so unrealistic and so like fan fiction-y almost to me. But other than that, I thought it was a really solid story. It was just more like a personal preference of things that I didn't like as much or that I didn't connect to. Guys, no one warned me how sad this book was gonna be. I had no idea this was gonna be such a tearjerker. It's insane because you know her husband is not actually dead, but you are grieving his death along with her as if he actually was dead. It is so heartbreaking. I knew I was gonna put myself in her shoes, but I didn't think I was gonna really feel all these emotions along with her, and I truly am. I'm honestly so torn on who she should pick. I feel like there's one person who I like better, but there's a situation that I think is better. So I'm just like completely 50-50. I don't know who she should end up with. I don't know who she's going to end up with. There are no signs so far that she's gonna like pick one over the other, but I read a little bit in bed last night and I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna stop here. It's probably like 12:30, and it was like after 2 a.m. I could not believe it. Felt no time was passing when I was reading this book. So I'm loving it. I'm truly loving it. I have no idea who she's gonna pick. I don't know who she should pick, but yeah, this book has me feeling all the things, if you can't tell. Hi guys, I've finished One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I'm here with my final thoughts. I love this book so much. I connected to the characters, I connected to the story. I feel like the message of this book was so good. I feel like there were great life lessons in here. And this book made me feel everything. I did not know this was going to be such a tearjerker, but this book made me sob. I have not cried this hard from a book since reading Brightside, which I read in January of 2022. This book made me feel the best kind of feelings where you're enjoying it so much that you don't want it to end, but you also just like can't put it down because you need to know what's gonna happen. And I had a feeling about what I wanted to rate this book when I finished it, but I needed to sit with it for a couple days to make sure. So it's a couple days later and I am so happy to report back that this book is a new favorite and I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Yay! I'm so happy that we got a 5-star book out of this video. I'm so happy too that it was the last book I read, because ending this vlog on a high is just the best way to conclude this video. So I'm really, really happy. Also, I want to say that if this book has not been spoiled for you yet, read it before it does, and do not look at the Goodreads reviews because so many people spoil the book in the reviews and the comments. So I was really tempted to look at it while I was reading, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because I went back and checked after, and this book would have been ruined for me had I known the way it was going to end, because I loved the ending and I feel like it wouldn't have been as impactful if I knew what was going to happen beforehand. Also, I know this book got adapted. I was watching the trailer for it and none of the characters really look like how I pictured, which is fine. I can look past that, but it looks like they turned this like beautiful, emotional, touching story into like this lighthearted rom-com, and it just does not look good at all. And all the YouTube comments are like, yeah, this was not good. So I don't think I'm gonna watch the movie because I don't want my opinion of the book to be tainted, but I'm so happy that I love this book. I think it's my second favorite TJR book after Carrie Soto, so definitely a new favorite. Loved it so much. 5 stars. So happy to end this video on a high, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I would highly recommend this book.